The following program was made possible thanks to the generous support of our Kickstarter backers.
Well, first Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired.
Sup, Holmes?
Beware your host, Jonathan. Oh,
Thanks, Sinistar. So wonderful to see you. Sinistar being one of the original members of the Destructoid community, along with you. It's like an old folks home special this week with Agent MOO on the show, one of the Destructoid community classics. And I was there too, back in the 2007s, 2008s. Ben, how are you doing?
Doing great. How about you?
I'm all right, I guess. I got ingrown hair. But if that's the worst of my problems, I suppose I really can't complain. Look you've got the High Strangeness poster back there. You've got the Agent MOO. Move your head a little to Agent MOO, Maximum Overdeath, a classic Destructoid community-influenced video game that you can still get on Xbox Live Arcade.
It's still on there. They haven't killed it yet. So, every once in a while, I just check the store page for it, and you can still buy it for $1. So.
That's so neat. And that was back in the was that even before I made a game with zombies in it? I think it was.
It was I think we were just after them, maybe. But
right.
Yeah, I tested it out. I made a game with zombies in it when it was still in peer review on Xbox Live Indie Games. So I played that. I'm like, this is gonna take off. Because that was at that point nobody had sold anything for $1 on there. Everything was like whatever Moon Money equivalent of $3 was and up.
So it was innovative in its cheapness, and that speaks to the time that we're talking about.
Cheapness was in the song too.
Sure. So we're talking, what was that, 2008, 7?
2008, 2009. So, I released my game in 2009. And, it actually sold more than I expected on there. But Agent MOO Maximum Overdeath, I originally developed that with the Destructoid community as a game to play on Friday night fights. And I would just be on IM all day, just coming up with stupid ideas with other detoiders and turning them into weapons and memes in the game.
And then how did you end up getting it on the Xbox 360?
Well, I originally developed it in XNA, and XNA, when Microsoft created it, it was originally just like a split from their DirectX, the basic version to manage being like C#. And then once they got this platform out there, then they added in the Xbox Live Indie Games Marketplace, where you could take your XNA game and get it peer-reviewed and released on there. So they came up with that capability when I was in the middle of developing the game. So I just decided, hey, I was just developing this for fun. I'll just package it up and release it on there. So I did, and it did all right on there. And having it on there, instead of just doing testing with Windows drivers that are just hacked together in some dude's basement, I was using the Xbox Live multiplayer to just send invites to players and just load a game up and have 10 or 15 people in there just shooting each other and breaking my net code.
So for people who haven't played it, and please go do if you have your Xbox 360 still. Can't remember if Xbox Indie Games boots on the Xbox One or not, but yes, Agent MOO Maximum Overdeath. It's a game you can play online with people, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, it's got multiplayer support in there. There's four-player split screen support, and it is basically it's a Contra style deathmatch game. So it's a 2D scroller where you can jump into vehicles, fire explosive weapons at people. I've got a portal gun in there, so you can shoot one end below a spawn point and the other end off a cliff get some kills that way. So there's like built-in systems to like troll with it a little bit if you know how the mechanics work. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to develop as a first project to really take all the stuff I learned doing C# programming in my professional work to some game mechanics and just play with that. So,
So prior to that, yeah, you and still, if I know correctly, you work as a programmer, and it was strictly for fun. You made this game, or did going into it, did you think? And how was that feeling, knowing that financially, it sounded like did you make the entire game yourself, or did it cost any money? Did you have to hire any artists or anything?
Well, I did all of the code and art, and I mean the art shows that it was just me, but I did like all the programming and everything, and I just I brought in a musician from the D-Toy community, Marcus Cannon. He did some awesome tracks for it. He did that I'm a Shark, Suck My Dick.
Oh yes, a classic about Hamza Aziz, maybe kind of a little. It's at least a little about Hamza. What's his name?
Hamza
Guitar
inspired.
Comic? What's that?
Guitar Comic.
Yeah.
And I Kill Pixels is his stage name.
Oh, that's right. He's very, very good.
Yeah.
So no money being put in. The fun of creating a game, and then you put it out and you actually made money back.
Yeah. So I mean, like roughly, I made like probably $10,000 on that total. So.
Whoa. That's amazing.
Yeah, in like over the course of a few years or so, and like once in a while I'll get like a check once it gets past their like $100 payout threshold. But that's pretty rare these days. But yeah, it was an awesome project. Like if you factored in like my hourly rate for like a year and a half of work, it's probably like way below minimum wage.
Sure.
But like just doing it for fun and getting something back for it was awesome. And that was while I was doing full-time work during the day. So so like with that development, it's just do 9 to 5 and then come home and after family time, just sit down and code and just crunch it out.
Yeah. Instead of playing video games, you were making them, at least for that time. And I've heard from a lot of people who make games that the process of problem solving and getting to know the language that they're working in is similar to getting to know the language of a game mechanic, or getting to know the language of, and it can be just as fun for them sometimes.
Yeah, and I found that this is something where when I like get back into a game, a lot of the kind of psychological achievement hooks, like the things I'm seeking, kind of get hijacked a little bit. So like I'm very selective about the games I do play when I get back into doing some game playing. I do a lot on just mobile stuff on my phone, because that's like that's limited to like specific situations. But like MMORPG, I never play MMORPGs, but I like a lot of Western RPGs, like just getting into Fallout or Skyrim. Like those games, like I just get sucked into it, and like it'll take me off of it'll knock me off of my productivity for game development, because like when my mind's thinking about like in my free time what I want to get done, like it's thinking about like in the game I want to get get to the next thing, or like build up my character, max them out and stuff. So a lot of the like reward systems in games emulate a lot of what you get like in terms of being successful at a career and all of that. And I think that's part of why we enjoy games so much, is because there's some of that escapism, but like just the sense of achieving something. That's something very much defines us as humans, as wanting to achieve something and wanting some permanence and something like that.
Absolutely, yeah. I've ranted and raved to unwilling listeners, poor people trapped at dinner with me, wanting to leave. But I can't stop talking about how interesting it is to me that games are really designed to mimic successful games anyway, but mimic things that we want to do anyway. They tap into something we naturally have a hunger for and feed it. And sometimes it feeds us in a way that's healthy, and sometimes it feeds us in a way that's less healthy. But it's never as unhealthy as French fries. I ate so many French fries yesterday because they were so delicious, and I literally felt my body turn into a blob of fat. It was terrible.
But one thing is you can't power a car from the spent waste of video gaming like you can with French fry oil. So that's like one downside.
True. Yeah. That's one for Team French fries, I suppose. Yeah. And what was it about Destructoid as a website that got you interested in being a part of that community? That's something I've never even asked you in all the years.
Yeah. It's Detoid really like when I first got into just game blogs and stuff like that. Like first one, like everybody always found Joystick, and they would go on there and stuff. But Destructoid was like the most community focused site I had ever really been part of, and I was in there in the C blogs posting stuff randomly, but it wasn't till I along with Electro Lemon, we exploited you could put HTML in your subject line, and it would break the site, so you could put automatically playing YouTube clips in the sidebar. So we both exploited that, and our accounts got deleted. So it wasn't until my account got deleted that I actually, I heard back from Ron Workman. He was the community manager at the time. He was like, I had to delete your account. Sorry about that, but we're breaking the site. We're trying to pitch it to investors and stuff, and it's playing Chocolate Rain. So, but yeah, I mean, just having community manager reach out to me, and he actually gave me his phone number and everything. I just talked to him about the stuff, and it was actually even in that conversation that we just got to talking about stuff with Microsoft, that they were coming out with XNA and a marketplace, and it sounded interesting to me, and just from then on, I became more involved with the site. It kind of I didn't feel reserved about talking to the editors and stuff like that, and a couple of regional groups started up in my area, which is in New England and New York. So I got in those mailers, and I met Sumit in the first NARP that we had. That was when he was writing his first review. I think it was for MLB The Show, and so he was all stressed out about it and everything. I'm like, don't worry, Sumit, you're on top of it. You'll knock it out.
This is for people who don't know, Sumit Sarkar, who I believe still works for Polygon. I haven't caught up with Sumit in a little while. I think I last saw him somewhere in New York, but he worked for Destructoid and was a part of Destructoid for a long time. Our chief copy editor and sports game reviewer, sports news writer, wonderful young man. I care for him deeply. Yes.
But I met a lot of awesome people through Detoid, and I still keep in touch with people on the regional groups every day. We've still got a Google group going. I don't know, at this point, if it's still official, but yeah, I mean, I've met a huge community through Detoid, and that's kind of gotten me into game development and everything. So Yeah, so it's an awesome site and community.
Ah, so nice of you to say. I would like to get the community firing up harder again, but it is as the site has grown, it's a little bit tougher than it was back in 2008, 2009 to do the community stuff. And there really only is one Ron Workman. I wouldn't have worked for Destructoid at all if it weren't for Ron Workman. He also reached out to me and gave me his phone number, I want to say in 2008. And I was like, a man on the internet wants to call me? Okay. And he was not a small deal. He was writing huge news stories on Destructoid all the time. Destructoid was growing in size at that point, getting quoted on box arts and whatnot. So I call him up and he's like, you got an awesome screen name, man. Tron Knots, it's hilarious. Right for Destructoid. I'm like, okay. So I started bugging Nick Chester, who was the editor-in-chief at the time, and now I'm editor-in-chief of Destructoid. All thanks to Ron Workman. And you.
I think we were all pulling for you. The community was like Tron Knots for editor.
That's really kind of you guys. It's been pretty amazing to be editor-in-chief, and we're actually like doing really well, which is weird. Like I was sure I would somehow screw it all up, but our numbers so far in 2015 are outpacing 2014 by quite a bit, month by month. So yeah, good for us. But back to you, of course. So Maximum Overdeath comes out, eventually makes $10,000, and it was a thing you made for fun. Then you decide to go forward with the next game. And what was the next game that you conceived of?
Yeah, High Strangeness, and this was a game idea from Steve Jenkins. And he was on Destructoid, and he found me through there from my work on MOO. And he's like, hey, I'm getting this game together. We're going to do Kickstarter. At that point, nobody knew what Kickstarter was. So I was like, okay, whatever. Like people are going to give us money for a game, like just based on a video. But we put together the first successful game Kickstarter. Basically, just we didn't really know what to put together for it, so it was a trailer of the game and kind of like something for each of the sections of like what they asked for like the risk reward and all that stuff. And the original Kickstarter was it was really to like kickstart the game. And that's what the service was billed as, and what everybody understood it as was just something to like get something started. Whereas now, like everybody interprets it as like you're buying the game. But like the original Kickstarter we did was like mostly physical rewards, and Steve was he was like silk screening shirts and like doing all this stuff like by hand and like like burning discs and stuff like that, so we raised $1,500 through that, and just comparing that to Kickstarters of today, it's crazy.
15. So what did that seem like a lot at the time when you got the 1,500 and you knew you'd earned it?
It was kind of like a symbolic thing of getting the game started. And like it went towards paying for some of the music to be produced, and just kind of for us as like token of good faith, like, okay, here we go, this is like a real thing. You're like, technically you're paid to do this. It's not like this thing where like we're just signed on for something we're never going to get paid for it.
Sure. But, and this was 2009.
2009, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I think September 2009 was when it was successfully funded, and the original Kickstarter was for starting the project. Nowhere in there like did we actually have like the game itself as a reward, but like we're giving out the game. We already gave the game out to everybody who Kickstarted it anyways, but it was one of those things like we don't know if it's technically like when it's going to come out, and we weren't sure of like the release date and all that stuff. So so we didn't promise it because we weren't like 100% sure we can deliver it, but like we're 100% sure we can start this project. So, but yeah, it's funny how like the accountability has changed, where there's not really. Um, uh, I don't think there's so much of an obligation these days with Kickstarter. It's like something that like it'll just kind of go on and on, but there's no like constraints in terms of like when it delivers and all that. And I mean it's good and bad, but I think it's it's a way of getting a project started. And like in the case of these the huge Kickstarters, it's a fraction of like a AAA game budget. So for the EGA Kickstarter.
Oh, sure. Bloodstained.
Yeah, Bloodstained.
I think 3. Did that get to 5 million? I think so.
I think it got to like 5 million, but it's
over.
10% of the budget of the game. And so for indies, like to be able to fund a game through there, it's something that like you have to kind of think about how much you can ask for based on what you're really going to need. And you're always going to need more than you expect, unless you're like really like liberal with that. So
yeah. I'm yet to meet anyone who said they ended up under budget with their indie game. It just doesn't seem to happen.
Yeah, and it's not just games. It's software development in general. Like if you have a full idea of what it's going to cost to make something that's software, then like you're either built in a ton of fluff into that, or you've already done so much of the architecting to come up with that like that already costs some money, and like you did that. So
Sure.
yeah. So like looking at how we approach funding for future projects, it's really up in the air. I mean, we're kind of looking at different things, like like working with publishers or self-publishing, and working with a PR firm. But I mean, one of the things that one of the takeaways from releasing High Strangeness, and like I'll just kind of jump into like the release. We released like a month and a half ago for Steam and Wii U, and let's see, we sold 3 times as many copies on Wii U as we did on Steam. And
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That I don't think many would have expected that.
Yeah, and like a major part of that is that Nintendo, like they featured our game like on the front page of their marketplace for a few weeks. So like we were up there and people could see the game. We were being featured, and with Steam, it dropped right off. Like like without getting into specifics, I mean,
Sure.
They give you like kind of like an initial round of visibility, and if you don't meet like a certain threshold of like return in terms of like your conversion in terms of like how many people see the game versus click on it, and then probably purchasing it is probably one of their other metrics, but they have metrics to see basically like how profitable like your game would be if they put it in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And like in this, like so far in 2015, I think the number was like over 1,500 games had already been released on there, which is more than they ever even had on their service in the past. So, and I don't know where the number came from, if it was just greenlit or released, but they are in a situation now where they're becoming more of an app store type of model, where it's not difficult to get on there, it's difficult to be seen on there. So the onus is more on the developer to get the game out there and to bring in people to buy the game. So that's something that like not necessarily like my strong suit. I'm kind of like just learning as I go, like how to market the game and all that. And that's something I kind of like. I'm just kind of like sitting back at this point in terms of like, I'm not a marketing guy. I'm not very much of a like sales person, and like I when I get into like sales mode, I feel guilty about like trying to influence somebody's opinion, but that's not really a good trait in a salesperson.
Well, it can. Guilt is honesty, and some of the most successful salesmen I've ever met have said to the person they're selling something to, maybe this product sucks, maybe it's terrible. I don't know. What do you think? You tell me. I'm not going to try to push you around or tell you what to do. I'm going to be honest, and that forms a bond, I guess, that causes the customer to, one, be taken aback, and two, and then they remember that feeling of being taken aback, and therefore when they're thinking later, what should I play for a video game, they'll remember, I was taken aback by that sales guy who said maybe his game sucks. And two, that there's a relationship there. There's a dynamic, and there's honesty, at least they think there's honesty, which causes them to trust and give it a shot. However, now that I'm talking about it, thinking out loud about it, that's exactly what Nintendo tried with Earthbound. They said this game stinks, and people said, oh, well, then I'm not going to play that. And they skipped it. So it doesn't always work. I guess the particulars matter quite a bit. And there's a very good Earthbound joke in your darn video game, now that I think about it. Yeah. Good job with that joke. I quite liked it. For me, High Strangeness, messaging it, explaining to people what it is and how it's going to make them feel is pretty darn tough. And maybe we'll be doing more of that on the show, going back into how you went from Kickstarter into making it from there. But explaining to people, it's like a 2D top-down, sort of like a classic Zelda game, but more so like other games that were on the NES that were in the Zelda genre. It reminds me more of I can't believe, I think it was a Golden Axe game for the Sega Master System. Gives me a little bit more of that feeling. And it goes in between graphic styles, but it stays true to pixel art. But there's also a very interesting story going on, kind of a sweet, touching yet dark and sometimes disturbing story with a talking cat. I mean, the concept of the two different worlds that we have in the game is we have a 16-bit world and an 8-bit world, and they're both really tied to those respective console generations. And we kind of put together like the things we loved about those generations into those worlds. And like the 8-bit world is it's really influenced by the original Legend of Zelda for NES, where you move in 4 directions and you have like a simple jab attack, and the like kind of the movement pace and everything is true to those games. And we stick almost entirely to the like the NES color palette for that, and you can transition between that to this 16-bit world. And the 16-bit world is more like the Super Nintendo and Genesis RPGs, where it's an action RPG where you can sprint around, do combos and stuff like that. And it's inspired by like Secret of Mana, Link to the Past, Earthbound, and I mean, just like having those two worlds, that's kind of like the mechanical side of the game. But the story is it's kind of it's like a lot of like kind of the JRPG story of like having this like mysterious force that's like casting a shadow on the world, and like you're the young man who's discovering the power of the crystal skull that somebody left in your kitchen, and your talking cat guides you along the way. It made me feel a little bit like John Dies at the End as well, which is a book and a movie The movie is by the same guy who did Bubba Hotep, and it's got that same sort of, the world as you know it is maybe creepier and more awful than, and also more amazing and fun depending on how you look at it. And that ties into the graphics, how it's really depending on your perspective on how you end up seeing the world, and changing your perspective on the world can help you to solve problems that you wouldn't otherwise be able to. And it is a creepy, fun world you made up. And who did those drawings, by the way? Because there is 8-bit and 16-bit.
Yes,
and then also just hand-drawn graphics mixed in. It really gave it an organic feel.
Sam Bennett is he's the illustrator who he did those watercolor illustrations that we have in there, and those kind of scroll through, and that's like your other, that's like another dimension of clarity that you see. And like kind of the way the game is like kind of like multi-dimensional or hyper-dimensional, whereas these are all existing simultaneously, and you're traveling between these dimensions. And we have some like some creatures that they're stuck in one dimension, and there's like a shadow of them in the other dimension, and you kind of you manipulate that to fight them. So you have to like switch to their dimension to battle them, and and avoid the other ones that are in your dimension.
And was that the concept from the start was to go with this? Back in 2009 is when you first had this idea?
Yeah, and I didn't come up with the idea for the game. It was Steve Jenkins, Crystal Labs. He came up with the whole story for the game and the design for the levels, and like over the course of the project, that kind of became like our shared concept for the game, and it was interesting, like just like as the game progressed over the course of it was 5 years that we were developing it, and this was always like it was a passion project that when we started it and got it kickstarted, this was something that had so much promise that we wanted to get completed and released. And just like over the years, like we both kind of went through personal things in our lives, and like for example, I had 2 boys born during the development of the game.
Whoa.
So so like just my life has changed like so much over the course of developing the game, and that's just kind of like just as I've changed, I've been learning more and implementing that in the game. And like for like as we were like releasing the game, like for the last probably year and a half or 2 years of development, I was really focusing like my like almost my life goals on like at night, like after I'm done with my day job and after family time and like time with my wife and everything, just sitting down and like working on the game until like 3 or 4 in the morning. And but like I just kind of like past few years, it's been my like sleep schedule has been like hovering around 4 hours a night.
Oh my God! And has that affected your ability to do your day job and to make the game and to be a parent and to be a husband and just everything?
It's been a challenge. Like I kind of I'll cycle through like good and bad sleep and stuff, but like it'll be like kind of like 6 hours is like a full night of sleep. And like right now I'm between jobs right now, so I'm just like doing the game development at night and just like like getting enough sleep. And I've been feeling a lot better, even though I don't have a big check coming in. But
I'm glad you're finally getting some sleep. It's very important for longevity for your life.
But
young without it. Yes.
But yeah, it's been tough. Like I like over the course of like developing it and just developing the game and just like not having that sleep. Like I've gotten like 2 like bronchitis infections, and like just normally like when you get like a like upper body cold, it just kind of works itself out. But like both times it happened, I just had to get antibiotics for it, and like yeah, it's like being sick for like a month or so. It just sucks.
Ah, brutal. Well,
Yeah,
now that sleep is back, hopefully your health will continue to improve. I did want to ask. You have the idea, you have the concept, you have the Kickstarter, 2009. Did you envision that it might take 5 years? And if you did envision that it might take 5 years, do you think you would have gone about things differently in terms of anything, the concept or any other aspect of it?
well, I think a lot of things changed um, in um, in the game, like over the course of the game development, we like Steve and I both learned like how to make a game like of that scale, and moving forward, like I've learned so many lessons from developing this game, scoping it out, and like one of the biggest things is, and this is something that like we learned like maybe like more than halfway through, is just to like just never have like when you have a team working together, and you can't guarantee everybody's time. Just like no matter what, like figure out a way to keep your part of the game development going, and that's like just working in prototypes, putting in programmer art, like just whatever you need to do to keep it going, and like a lot of cycles were burned just like with things where I'm waiting for a level from from so and so, so I can't really develop that part of the game. So just figuring out how to like get the game constantly growing and developing, and just kind of like take on as much responsibility as you can yourself, and that's like for everybody on the project. That's kind of my advice, and that's something we're applying that to like our next game project, in terms of trying to make sure that like none of the tasks are too explicitly dependent on other tasks. So just trying to compartmentalize things, and like we with High Strangeness, Steve and I bounced project management responsibilities back and forth, and like I actually got a PMP certification
I think I know
during that time. This project management professional certification for like my day job. Like,
Oh, cool.
During that time, so like I learned some stuff from that. I also learned a lot of like bullshit like knowledge that does not like apply to any like real project from that. So like a lot of it is just figuring out like how to manage for your line of work, your type of project, and the people working on it. Like there's like the PMP like methodology is their goal is to make being a project manager a full-time job, and nobody wants to spend like all their time managing projects. So like it's something that should just be like a part of your time. And
Sure.
so-
Yeah, it's very stressful to deal with all the moving parts, and those parts are in fact people, and people being as unpredictable as things can be, to somehow manage it and get everything working together so minimal time is wasted and things are always moving forward. That is not easy. I don't envy you at all. And I mean, I do that stuff too on Destructoid, and this new magazine that we're doing with Game Fan, there's been a lot of that as well. So I can feel your pain from across the screen.
Yeah. So yeah, and a lot of that growth has been like figuring out like my strong suits, and like for me, it's like heads down programming and designing, just kind of working with the chunks, like banging things together until things feel right. And with the skills I've learned, programming wise, like we started in XNA, and I actually had like a lot of code that I developed for MOO that I used in High Strangeness.
Oh, really?
Because we did not have like Unity, Unreal. These engines have all these subsystems for like animation, like game logic, physics, and stuff like that. I developed all that stuff from scratch for MOO because XNA didn't have a concept of like a sprite or anything like that. So all you had was like a square graphic, and you can draw like a square of it. You can draw that on the screen. You can rotate it, and you get a timer that tells you like how much time elapsed since the last frame. Those are like the two things that like XNA gave you, like at least when I started programming in it. And like from that, I created an animation system and like this hard-coded structure for how to store the animations and like adding in properties for like creating. I would create like additional objects for particle effects, like you shoot a rocket, you want smoke coming off of it, and stuff like that. So, so like a lot of the work on High Strangeness was kind of stuck in those tools that I developed specifically for originally for MOO, and then like getting them to work for High Strangeness. And oddly enough, like the thing that I changed that made it a platformer versus a action adventure overhead game was taking off the gravity and letting you move up and down. And like once you change that, like that's like the key difference.
Huh.
And
so
like
the difference between Zelda and Mario is gravity, basically.
Yeah. And and like you can kind of see that in like in Zelda 2.
Mm-hmm.
Where like they let you move up and down in the side scrolling version of it, but
Sure. The top down, and then you switch to
yeah.
similar to Adventures of Pip, which is a neat video game that also came out on the Wii U recently, that has a slightly similar theme as High Strangeness in that you start off as a single pixel, then you turn into an 8-bit pixel, and then you can turn into a 16-bit pixel, being a 2D platformer by some folks who worked at WayForward, Mark Gomez, and some other guys. Which speaks to a question I was going to ask before. This concept of switching between console generations or between graphic styles. In 2009, it was incredibly fresh. It was, Mega Man 9, I think, had come out maybe the year before, so people were like, "Oh my God, remember Nintendo? That was great!" And there was a excitement in finding out that this kind of thing was marketable, and knowing that other people also like had a feeling for the way graphics used to be, because going through the PlayStation and Nintendo 64 eras, it was like you never saw old 8-bit looking graphics anymore. So for them to come back and to know that they were actually marketable, that we weren't alone in liking that, it was amazing. 2009 was the perfect time for High Strangeness.
Yeah.
And I was so excited about it then, and I'm still excited about it now. But since then, I feel like your idea got jacked. And like 50 people have come out with like now I'm a 16-bit, now I'm an 8-bit. There was like Adventures of Pip. I think there's a game called Adventures of Bit-Boy. Retro City Rampage didn't quite do it, but it did kind of intentionally.
Yeah, they did like specifically NES. And
right.
I played through Retro City Rampage. That game is it's an amazing tribute to NES.
Sure, absolutely. But that was another one that, if I remember correctly, that was announced around the time that High Strangeness was, maybe a little after. And it took Brian Provinciato, who created it and programmed it and did a lot of the graphics. It took him like, I think, 4 or 5 years to get it out.
Yeah.
And then what he was saying to me at one point is like, if I had been able to get it out when I had the initial idea, I'm betting I would have made a ton more money. Like it did well enough, and strangely enough, it did better on 3DS, I'm hearing, than it did on a lot of other platforms. But but I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but like even like a year earlier, like I think things have changed fundamentally on Steam that have like for example with Sunset, like they recently ran into like basically they sold 4,000 units of their game, and like based on that, like they're not able to continue game development. But I think there's a lot of things involved in their situation, but that's just kind of like they're just kind of getting those numbers out there, and like at this point that's like a mean number for just development and releasing on Steam, just because there's so many titles on there that's not uncommon to just sell 4,000 copies. We like combined, we have not sold that many copies of High Strangeness.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, there's like a flood of accessibility in terms of tools. There's more games hitting market, and there's just a combination of many things. And I think price points on Steam are going to need to kind of catch up to the number of titles that they have on there. I think prices are going to drop a lot in terms of like the not just like sale prices, but like the full prices of games, because like it's kind of harder to compete with other titles when there's so many things out there. And but yeah, I mean, it's the market is constantly evolving, and we're in recently fairly new console generation, and people are kind of still getting an idea of those marketplaces, like what ID at Xbox is going to be, and all of that. So.
Sure. Do you feel like it's at all possible? Can we dream of the ideal future where what happens in the market and what happens on Steam and every game marketplace is where the games that are good do well and the games that don't do well are bad? Could that ever happen?
I mean, I think part of that is word of mouth and promotion. Well, and I mean, part of it is like merit based, and they do reward user reviews on there. But like as we know, user reviews can be they can be kind of like a lynch mob for some games.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're only with the user reviews, as important as they are, you're only getting a survey of the people who happen to take a chance on it. It's hard to say what that even means.
Yeah, a lot of people are like kind of aggressive with user reviews, like having like friends and family and stuff like rate up, but like that's, I mean that's one of those things like I don't really get involved in that stuff, so.
I don't blame you. The theme of this thought process for me about High Strangeness is its similarities to Earthbound, and that's partly because, and we talked about this before the show a little bit, I just wrote this like 3,500 word long article about the Earthbound series. I've been like thinking about it constantly lately, and how interesting it is to me that when it came out, it didn't work out. It didn't sell a ton. It didn't sell enough by any means, and now it's selling better than it did when it was initially released, when it was cutting edge graphics and the most you could do with that kind of RPG, or at least it was in the same league as other RPGs in terms of technological advancement. And now that it's like a retro game, it's hugely popular because it's eventually found an audience who identified with the fact that this game was always kind of an outsider, and this game was always kind of misunderstood. This game was a lot nicer than a lot of the games of the time. It was more humble than, if you compare Earthbound to Mortal Kombat and say which one's more humble and nice, it's not a tough decision to make. So people who are humble and nice ended up really identifying with it and eventually spreading the word about it. And another game that's humble and nice It's friggin' High Strangeness. It's got horror feeling to it, but there's like a sugar skull feeling to it. It's sweet and scary, but so honest and well-meaning at the same time. I can't help but think it'll also find its audience a massive one in time. That's my hope.
Yeah, and I think so too. I just need to connect with the right people and get it out there.
How do they do with Splatoon? With Splatoon,
They have Chad Consolmo.
They did have Chad Conselmo, who was another Destructoid alumni around the time we were in the community at our heights of just being community folks. He was there too.
He's got like the brightest smile in gaming. Like I think he outshines Brad Muir.
Wow, that's saying something, because Brad's something too.
Yeah.
We'll get.
They should duke it out.
And like a smile off, and gleam harder. Chad, I think it's Chad. I get these emails from Nintendo, and I never get to talk with Chad anymore, unfortunately. But we'll get an email from Nintendo like, you know what's amazing? Fireworks. You know what has fireworks in it? Animal Crossing and Splatoon. You're going to have an amazing 4th of July, guys. And that's like their press now. And I'm like,
I think, it's just like the positivity of that game is amazing, and I think it resonates with people how it's really just it's not like a like a gritty war shooter. It's just delightful and just the
no
way,
cynicism, a real honesty and innocence to it.
Yeah, and the way that they have communication in there is kind of like through like just memes and silly stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing. It's amazing how that has sprung up and just all the squid memes and stuff like that. It's pretty silly.
Yeah, it's fun. I was playing it earlier today because I was too tired. I think I slept for maybe 4 hours last night, so much like you, working on stuff. I was too tired to actually think, so I just allowed myself to play Splatoon for an hour, and I felt much better. It's a good time. And of course, back to High Strangeness. I'm very interested still in the whole process, from eventually getting involved with Majesco and Midnight City. When did that happen in the whole saga?
It was like 2 years or so ago after our first showing at the Indie Mega Booth, and Casey Lynch, he heard about a game and reached out to us, and just from there we worked together, and working with Midnight City, they were able to kind of get us in advance to get the sprite work finished up, and that was one of the key things that was gating the release of the game, was that we weren't able to internally for us produce all of the art assets that we needed to release the game, and just getting a little bit of just that advance to help just find people that were awesome at sprite work to animate the rest of the enemies and the bosses and stuff. That just getting that was able to get us to complete the game. So without them, we wouldn't have been able to even complete the game probably.
Oh wow.
So
huh.
so in terms of the goal of getting the game released, they were a big help. And in terms of release, they helped us through that process, and it's challenging to release a game, and it was just one day we had a release date, so.
Well, I was sitting on the sidelines. I was terrified because Midnight City, they had a amazing booth at PAX East. I want to say 2000. Was it just 2014? Maybe it was 14 or 13.
14.
They had Crowdscape 14. They had Crowdscape. They had High Strangeness. They had Video Ball. I think they had some sort of fighting game on display. I'm blanking on it all of a sudden. Anyway, great stuff, and I'm excited about all of it. And then like months later, I'm hearing like Midnight City might be over, and I email them. I'm like, "Are you guys over?" And they don't write back, which is what people do when they're over. And I was terrified they were gone. I was terrified for you too, because
I mean, like one of the key things to understand about Majesco though is like they are publicly traded, so like that's one of the things. Like if they don't have something to say, they're not going to say it unless they're going to say it to investors. So
oh sure, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they've supported us through release, and we're out there, and yeah, I mean, we check in with them for like, you know, like whatever support we need, and you know, we're working on getting the game out in like, you know, bundles and stuff like that, and you know, doing sales along the way. So yeah, I mean,
so they're alive.
They're alive, yeah.
Oh, that is so great. I was sure they were dead. What a relief. Good for them.
And they did recently put out like Super Avalanche, Avalanche 2. So that's out there, and that is it is a marshmallow climbing game. So yeah,
I will check that out. How could I not check out a marshmallow climbing game? You climb on marshmallows, or you are a marshmallow whom climbs?
You are a marshmallow who climbs, and yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's all marshmallows do.
Sign me up. So with High Strangeness more or less wrapped, and from what I know, it's not buggy. It's not like you need to keep fixing it or anything. It seems done. Well, what do you think you're going to do next?
Yeah. Like our team, we're working together on a new project. We don't have anything announced, but in terms of like the development has been going like so much quicker that we basically kind of threw out our old code base. So we started from scratch, and like the way we developed High Strangeness was originally in XNA, and the game was written the way I talked about in terms of like my custom animation engine and all that stuff. And we had like all these tricks in there to do the transition between worlds and stuff like that. But that was like heavily bogged down in like a specific way of doing it. Mm-hmm. And like, now that we've like started from scratch, we're able to just like work with Unity and like its strengths for like prototyping things, like just like dragging an object in and manipulating and stuff like that. So like the process for the stuff that we've been prototyping has been much quicker, and we're planning a much bigger scope than High Strangeness was in terms of like the world and having it be more open, less linear. So yeah,
that's hard. Shenmue 3, they said true open world will cost you 10 million, sirs. So please give us that money. Their initial funding goal, I think, was 2 or 3 million. I think it was 2. And they hit that in a night. But for open world, apparently you need a lot of money.
I don't know if that 10 million is Kickstarter money, or they want that money from Sony, or
no, Kickstarter. They said on Kickstarter that will determine the development of the game. If they reach 10 million, it will be quotes true open world unquotes, as opposed to
like VR.
Yeah, who knows what they mean? I personally.
So can you like virtually drive a forklift? I mean, that'd be pretty awesome.
Maybe, yeah. For $10 million, you can just drive a forklift.
You can be the forklift.
What I'm hoping.
Connect 3 is going to be part of it. That's part of the 10 million.
And Mark, I don't know if you remember Mark, the forklift driver. I want to virtually just spend time with him in a small room.
I don't know anything. I'm just looking for some sailors too, the big guys.
I in all seriousness though, I hope that Shenmue 3 doesn't have a huge scope, because one of the reasons I liked it was an intimate little world you got to know every nook and cranny of, as opposed to a big, almost overwhelming world where you felt like it was limitless, and that's what was nice. But it was harder for me to find direction in, let's say, your Grand Theft Auto than Shenmue. But anywho, you're gonna do a big world in your next game.
Yeah, and it can be a big 2D world, and and I want to spoil much more about it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you sharing as much as you had. How was it to put it on Steam and the Wii U? Were you involved in that, or was that Midnight City?
Well, I was doing all the builds, and so like basically we've got dev kit for Wii U, and so developing builds and getting out through to them for certification, and like Midnight City, they were handling the crazy stuff with getting it rated content wise in Europe, Australia, like South America, everywhere. So we can do international release, and like we're out in Nintendo of Europe and America. So yeah, I mean the development process, Unity makes it really easy to do. Well, relatively speaking, simple to do builds for multiple platforms. When you're working with a console, there's gonna be like some features and shaders and stuff. They're gonna have to be different. But we actually had shaders in our game for part of it, and that was one of the like advanced Unity features that I used in there. But we've got one point where we do like a like Game Boy color palette and like Virtual Boy color palette and stuff like that. So
I didn't realize that was shaders.
Yeah, it's
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's we do it with shaders on PC and like with textures on the Wii U, and but yeah, those a crazy process to like figure out like the way to accomplish something I wanted to do was to use like shader language, which is like intended for like OpenGL and like complex 3D games. So.
Neato. And did you have any dealings with Steam, with Valve or Nintendo directly, or was that all through Midnight City?
Midnight City did work with them directly, but like we were like registered with with console holders as like registered developers, so we had access to all of their developer resources and stuff. And like Nintendo's got they have a lot of resources for developers, both developing on the platform and also just like specifically for Unity development on there. So, like whenever we ran into like a roadblock, like something we couldn't figure out how to do, we were able to like get it resolved, like just going to their like their internal forums that they had for that stuff. And
are they named after Wario? Their internal forums?
Wario World.
Is like what they call that?
Yeah, and that's like their like big publisher portal. And we went through their like big publisher portal, like instead of like they have like a new indie setup, which is more lightweight for people developing as indies. So like we're in that like gray area where I don't know if we're technically an indie or not. But, yeah.
Yeah, because Majesco paid for some of it, but you paid for some of it, and you did some of the work. You have the dev kit, but Majesco.
I have the credit card statements to prove it.
Well, if you have the credit card statements, then it's indie, because it went to you. So you're still indie, with some publisher help, like how Yu Suzuki is with Shenmue and Sony, from the sounds of it. So do you think you would? One of the things, you've got this special power to get a thing on the Wii U. You haven't done the ratings and all that stuff that Midnight City did, but are they coming to you asking for any help with porting? And is that something you would want to do?
Yeah, I mean that's something I'd be interested in helping out with. But yeah, I mean I like personally haven't really done any contracts for that. But yeah,
It might be a fun treat, as you know, because you're in the area. We don't live that far away from each other. That we physically, I don't socialize with human beings outside of. Yeah, I just never leave the house or do anything. I had to hang around with in-laws the other day, and it was like going to another planet. It felt so bizarre to be around people. But anyway, we live around each other, sort of, and we know a lot of the same people. There's a lot of indies around here who I'd imagine would be very excited to partner with you. That's Will Brierley making Soda Drinker Pro. Soda Drinker Pro as a cameo.
Yeah. Will is awesome, and I've got a soda over there, and we've got a Chris Chung from he does Cat Lateral Damage.
Oh sure.
He's in Boston as well, and we've got a cameo of his in our game, and there's going to be a Crystal Skull in Cat Lateral Damage update.
That's awesome. Yeah, I could see you working, because I've talked with Chris before. He's been on the show before too. He wants to have Cat Lateral Damage on the Wii U just because he plays the Wii U a lot. Like I see him on Splatoon all the time. But he doesn't think it would actually make any money, so he feels like it would be irresponsible to put it on there, but he still kind of wants to do it. I don't know. Maybe that's a team up you guys could think about.
Yeah, because I mean, in terms of developing for the Wii U, it's an awesome platform. If not to just like have it on like the controller and all that, and like if the game is optimized enough, they have new 3DS support for Unity coming up. So. Oh,
that's right.
Yep.
Huh. Do you think you might ever, because from what I understand, High Strangeness on Unity, do you think it might come to new 3DS someday?
Yeah, we definitely want to put it on there. So we'll see.
Huh? Really cool. I wonder if that would be where it ends up making the millions. Certainly possible.
Well, new 3DS.
Right, not regular 3DS. Yeah. But I'm guessing
the big benefit of the 3DS, like you take that install base and you take that out.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what the install base for the new 3DS is. It's not minuscule, but it's probably 1 million or something. But I'm guessing
if every one of them bought the game, right?
Well, I'm thinking even more future.
We could do a packet. We could do like a crystal shell 3DS.
That would be so. Yeah, that would be so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know some people who can set that up.
I can. You probably know him better than I do. Damon Baker is the Nintendo guy I talk to the most about those sorts of things. I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to you about that. But moving forward beyond the new 3DS, I'm guessing whatever Nintendo's next handheld, and they're more or less due for one in the next couple of years or so, will hopefully run on similar enough architecture or have backwards compatibility.
Yeah, whatever the NX is going to be.
Yeah. Which would make sense that it would be some sort of Wii U 3DS hybrid if they're both able to run similar games. So that's what people are hoping anyway. Actually have a portable Wii U like they were hoping it would be in the first place.
I'm hoping it's going to be some kind of transformer that has like a screen embedded in it and like follow you around, because that would be pretty awesome.
That would be pretty awesome. I've wanted something like that ever since I was a youth. Right. So anything anything we missed in there? Because I kind of jumped around as I want to do. Doesn't feel like it's just 2 games you have under your belt. I feel like I'm missing something in there.
Yeah, I mean, those are, I also did a little bit of work on Blocks of Explosive Dismemberment. And it's not released yet, but it's by Barbaric Softworks, and it's a asymmetric game. So basically, one side of it is you are playing a Tetris style game, where you move blocks around, and there's like this dot running around, and the other player is the guy jumping around, avoiding the blocks that you're trying to kill him with.
Ah.
So it's partially a 2D block puzzle game, and the other side is a like a third-person action game where you're avoiding blocks and you're trying to destroy them and avoid being squished. And yeah, it features metal music and in very gory decapitations and body explosions and stuff like that. So
Blocks of explosive dismemberment. Has this been talked about? Did I miss this in the sea of 15,000 video games that were announced already?
yeah, it's I mean it's something that's been in the works, kind of like on the back burner for a while. But yeah, I mean yes, Sam Rogers of Barbaric Softworks, he's leading that, and yeah, I've been contributing to that, doing some like I did a little bit of netcode and like some like, 2D, 3D stuff. So
I feel like I've met him, Sam Rogers. That rings a bell.
He's shown at Boston Fig before, so you probably saw him there.
Yeah. That's a fun show. It's just like in the MIT gym, basically.
Yeah, just like, a few buildings down from the nuclear reactor facility. So.
Yeah, it feels very Simpsons-ish, that whole thing. It's got this kind of down-home Springfield feeling, the Boston Fig. All right. Well, I feel like there's more in there, but I'm digging my brain to discover what it is. We didn't talk about MOO yet. We could always talk about that.
Oh, yeah, in my arcade cabinet. But yeah, I just I built that thing from junk and scrap. But yeah, I mean, just basically a 4-player arcade cabinet. I assembled the controls from just HAP style switches, and I soldered them all together into a harness, into 2 controllers that turn into keyboard inputs, and it connects with a computer I have in there that just runs MAME on it, and I've got an interface for MAME, Super Nintendo, NES, and all that stuff.
Good grief! What do you think it is about you that inspires you to take on these kinds of tasks that would seem impossible, or at least very, very frustrating and difficult for most people? Making video games, making arcade.
Well, I like to keep busy and make stuff, and like probably my biggest fear is not being able to make stuff.
Huh? Has it always been that way?
I don't know. I mean, like when I was little and it was time to trade in the NES for Super Nintendo. I didn't like keep my stuff in cases and all that stuff. I took apart my NES to see how it works and like what like the pins look like and everything like that. So yeah, I just always was interested in like modifying stuff. One of my favorite games was called Ultimate Wizard, and it was a Jumpman clone, but it had a level construction kit in it, and this was for the Commodore 64.
What was it called?
I got Ultimate Wizard. It was by Electronic Arts.
That is such a great name. I have to look that up. So Ultimate Wizard, I had a Commodore 64 as well, so I still have it.
Yeah, and yeah, it had a level construction kit, so like it had like keys and like these game mechanic stuff in there, and yeah, from there like just doing like Doom and Quake mods in college. Like the first thing I did was in Counter-Strike, I made a replica of our cafeteria building in there, and this was I was very lucky that like I made this like back before like September 11th and all that stuff.
And all the terrible mass shootings and whatnot.
Yeah, and like this was like I was amazed it didn't like get taken out of context and I didn't end up on the news. But like yeah, it was Counter-Strike and you like bombed the cafeteria of the school.
Were you in high school then?
No, this was in college at Wentworth
Cool.
Institute of Technology.
Oh,
and,
cool.
Yeah, so yeah, that got me into doing some 3D modeling, like working in mapping tools and like creating the 3D shapes with like it was very primitive tools to create squares and stuff, and like I was able to do like outline of like the like campus police cars and all that stuff. So like you could jump on top of the building, like just like jump off and like pick people off as you're falling to the ground, and like put in sound clips. And yeah, I mean that was that led me into doing a few prototypes based on Pac-Man. First thing I did for a project for college was to do I called it like Tupac, and it was basically it was Pac-Man, but like everybody had like you know gangsta do-rags, and like your Pac-Man had like a Rambo arm with like an Uzi. So like you were firing guns around in like just a regular Pac-Man level, and the ghosts were they were firing at you, and you could pick up a rocket launcher that would blow through the walls of the level. So that was kind of like my first game that I tried to develop was taking a working Java-based Pac-Man game and just putting my spin on it, like putting in different graphics and changing the mechanics of it. And that's kind of how I recommend people get started with game development, is to try to take like the language you're going to develop in, try to find like a completed source code base that you can compile it and run it, and try to change aspects of the game, and just kind of figure out like when you I don't know multiply something by like 100, like what happens, like it's like you got extreme gravity or no gravity and stuff like that. And that's just kind of like how you get the feel for how game mechanics work. And then like you can do some from there. You can build something from scratch. And like the next thing I did was it was a multiplayer Pac-Man based game, but like you had analog like tank control movement, like, and you were a Pac-Man with an Uzi, and like I had kickback on the weapon, so like you'd fire it, but it would like spray all over the place. But, like it was like two people playing against each other in like a GTA style, but with Pac-Man graphics. And like
Was that Tupac too?
that was multi-pack.
Multi-Pac. I think it's pronounced Pac. Gee, these sound like great games. Can you put those out? Can you just whip those out and put them out there?
I have those somewhere. But yeah, I should put them up somewhere. If they're not already still accessible, they might be on HMO.com, and if not, I can put them up there. But
well, I haven't played them, so I can't be sure. But on concept alone,
they're pretty ridiculous, and they were based in Java, so I don't know if they still run. But
oh, right. Would it be hard to just like throw them up on Steam and Wii U?
Steam, yes.
But Wii U, no.
Wii U, yes. So like they would require being turned into like actual games, because they were prototypes. But,
they sound fun though.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean like a lot of stuff like revisiting ammo. This stuff that like I'm thinking about doing as well. And like I also have and this is something that Time Raptor. This is a side project that I've been working on, but it is a game where you are you're a highly intelligent velociraptor who has developed this device that will allow you to travel forward in time. So you're in an advanced dinosaur civilization, and this machine that you develop causes this mushroom cloud explosion that darkens the skies as you are propelled forward into the future of the 2000s. And as a result of your time travel, that mushroom cloud exterminated the dinosaurs. So you have created the future that you're traveling to, and the humans are pursuing you and trying to dissect you and turn you into the next basis for Jurassic Park. And your goal is to reassemble your machine and get back and correct your mistake.
So the dinosaurs would not, in fact, become extinct if you
That's
succeed.
if you succeed. So
Whoa, Time Raptor.
yeah,
Is that 2D? How would that work?
2D, yeah, and I developed a prototype, and I just use kind of assets from existing games. So like I've got like a Jurassic Park, Genesis, Velociraptor jumping around, being chased by a bunch of Mega Man dudes, and let's see, the buildings are the Mega Man 2, like the building that it scrolls up to.
Sure.
Is
Is it like a 2D action platformer?
Yeah, it's going to be a 2D. I've been thinking of it as like an infinite runner with a predator prey mechanic. So you build up a trail of humans following you, and in like Pac-Man CE style, you jump into predator mode and you jump behind them and you're pursuing them in your raptor rage, and you chomp them one by one to build up your chain. So
Would it be like realistic graphics of chomping?
I'm thinking about it, but I think it's probably going to be a little pixely, a little cartoony.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's to be determined how gory it will be. But I've got like Mortal Kombat, Blood and Guts
Right
spawning
now.
out right now.
Maybe claymation. Would you want to do, if I got the old green screen out and made you some clay
That would be
raptors,
awesome.
and then I would, maybe we should team up as soon as I'm done with all the other things I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right now I'm making sure my dog doesn't bark too loud into the microphone and we did have a question from Cataract, and it would be amazing if this was the Cataract of Destructoid community
Yes.
fame, one of the best Street Fighter 4 players I've ever met. He's beat Seth Killian in his own friggin' game in the past.
He's Honda enthusiast.
Yeah, if I'm remembering. He is asking a question you touched upon a little bit. Will we ever see a sequel to Ammo? Would you ever think about going back and not just putting it somewhere else or refining it, but actually continuing it in some way?
Yeah, I've thought about turning it into a new game, but like I think a lot of the stuff that I came up with at the time, like just the internet memes and like the whole like hippie invasion thing, was very like kind of like of my mindset at the time of like internet memes and like kind of like South Park style like super offensive humor for the sake
But
of
it had never been
Yeah.
the thing about it. 2008. Like internet meme, that was a word that had been around for like 6 months or something. All this
Yeah.
stuff was totally new then, so it is hard.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about turning that into a Unity game, and maybe either starting it from scratch or like taking the existing code base and like kind of porting that a little bit. But I'm thinking about redoing that and putting it up on HEO or something like that. But like yeah, some of the smaller game ideas I'm thinking of are just like for HEO or like just some other smaller service, and like kind of separate from like the bigger scale game development that I'm doing. But like a lot of that is like kind of dependent on kind of where I land next with a day job. So
Sure. Huh. So it sounds like not only there's this large open world project brewing, but there's the potential for a lot of little things. And I'm wondering if the feeling for you might be better to return to these small, for fun projects that you don't have the expectation of a Kickstarter, and you don't have the scope to try to reach. I mean, High Strangeness, it's not the hugest game in the world, but it's not small by any means. It's
and a lot of that
it's got tons of environments. Will it be more fun to go back to smaller things, you think?
would be, but got a mortgage and
Well, it's so hard to say what's going to make a lot of money these days.
Yeah.
It's that way with on Destructoid.com, video game blog. We'll write like, I don't know, 50 stories in a day or more. A story that's incredibly easy and fast to write will be the one that gets 200,000 views in 12 hours or something. And then one that took us days to write, some pontificating essay on the meaning of Pac-Man, and 500 people will read it. Like it's completely hard to say what's actually going to be a return in terms of profit with games, with writing about games, with YouTube videos about games. Such a crapshoot these days.
I'd love to do a lot of smaller stuff, and like if I went that route with the smaller things, it would probably be streaming a lot of that development. Like it's something that just me working on. I'm cool with just being like completely open about like the the business of it, the like what goes into developing it, and all that. And I mean, it would just be a matter of if people are willing to tune into something that's going to be on at like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Sure. Well, they very well may be, especially if that's where they feel their community is. Just like with classic Destructoid, people came, and they still do. I don't mean to imply that this era in Destructoid is over, but there was a time when I think the bulk of the activity on Destructoid was about the fact that they were all coming there because that's where their friends were. And now it's not quite the bulk of it anymore because the site's just gotten so big. But to form that kind of community around your game is to, potentially find an audience that will help sustain you, and you'll be sustaining them with games for years and years to come. You're still a young man. You could be by the time you're 60. That may be the time you get that check in for High Strangeness, $1 million. It's possible, probable. It's gonna happen. I'm pretty confident. Guy. Better or worse. Yeah.
$1 million check. It's in the mail.
Very well could be. Yeah, I hope so. Do you see itch being something that's maybe a better fit for you than other platforms, and maybe a better fit in terms of accessibility and findability as well?
Yeah. I'm just thinking in terms of like smaller scale games that I work on. They're somewhere between prototype and finished product, and I think that's somewhere where I want to put things up like that, just so like people can check out things that I've worked on, and like some of it might be free and some of it might be just like a buck or whatever. But yeah, it's something that like I like when I developed MOO for the Xbox. That's something that like that platform is not like I don't boot up an Xbox 360 like at all. Like that thing, like if I did, it would probably red ring on me. But
I've been scared to boot mine up for years. I think Fez was the last game I played on there, which was some time ago. So yeah, it's all making sense. I'm feeling as though the amount that you have learned and the fact that you have maintained your attitude of optimism and fascination with getting things to fit together, and you haven't lost your ability for bizarre inspiration that comes from places that you don't even understand, and yet you're still willing to run with it. I think that's what a lot of adults sometimes lose. They gain a block between them and the openness of their mind to just let a weird idea in and then actually run with it and create Time Raptor or create ammo. They think, this doesn't make any sense, this is weird, and they stop themselves, they edit themselves before they get anything done, but you're still running with it.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things is like my 3-year-old, he comes up with the most insane stuff when you just like ask him to come up with a story and like just ask him answers questions and stuff. But like, yeah, that kind of inspires some absurdity.
Well, friggin' X-Cop, isn't that how X-Cop got made?
Yeah.
It was a guy and like his 5-year-old cousin. It wasn't his son, I don't think. Some relative. Yeah. Huh.
But I mean, I'll show him games. He loves Mega Man 2. I asked him what his middle name was. He said, Bubble Man.
Your 3-year-old son's middle name is Bubble Man, or Mega Man's middle name?
Apparently, he's chosen Bubble Man.
Well, father of Bubble Man, we are out of time already. Cruised by, as I expected it to. It is always very fun talking with you, Ben. They can follow you on Twitter, and they can check out High Strangeness and your other things in different places.
Yep,
Where
I
are those
am
places?
at Agent MOO on Twitter, and you can check out my current game, which is High Strangeness, at highstrangenessgame.com.
Cool.
And it's also on Steam if you search for High Strangeness, or on the Wii U eShop.
And it's fully Wii U gamepad compatible, so if you just want to, that's how I played a lot of
You
it.
can play the whole game on the gamepad or on the TV, so yeah.
Yeah, a very fun game. As for me, I'm at Tronauts on Twitter. You can follow me to find out about things I'm doing. I'm thinking this magazine we've been working on for about 2 months might actually come out. It might even be tomorrow, they're telling me. I'm looking at emails out of the corner of my screen from Julie Halverson, who is the wife of Dave Halverson, who are like the Game Fan magazine people. They've been emailing me all day. I better go see what that's about. So yeah, follow me on Twitter if you want to find out about that weird magazine. Oh, the bobblehead. Look at that. Those were the days. Yeah, indeed. Also, you can watch the show later on YouTube, youtube.com/SupHolmesShow. You can listen to it on Libsyn and iTunes. Just Google it and you'll find it. I'm sure you will. And I think that's it. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.